Hello everyone, today we are going to be building a mobile application using the weather API from Rapid API, and it looks like this. Aside from fetching and displaying data about a particular location, it doesn't have that much functionality, and we're going to be building it in React Native and Expo. So to begin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my terminal here, and then I'm going to cd into my desktop. And then inside my desktop, I'm going to say npx create expo app at latest, and then I'm going to call it weatherman because that is the name that I gave my application. So I'm going to let this execute, and then once it is done, then we are going to continue. So once that is finished, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd into weatherman because that is the name of my application. So weatherman, and then I'm going to say code dot, which is going to open up an instance of Visual Studio Code into this folder, and then we can take a look at our application. And so there we go. So you can see that we have our assets folder here, which has our default app icons. You can change them up if you want, but that is not something that we're going to cover in this particular video. And then we have the node modules. Obviously we have the app.js, and the app.js is where everything is going to live, our entire application. You can see that for now, it only has some text on the screen that says open up app.js to start working in your app. And something that is going to be particularly different with the React Native is that first of all, we don't have CSS grid, but we do have Flexbox. The only difference being that Flexbox in React Native aligns items in column form by default instead of in row form. And then obviously we have the view here, which acts like the div in the web. And then we have the text here, which is a paragraph, but you can style it out to look like a heading, depending on how you want to do it. And then of course the default styling is, if you've ever used styled components, that is the default styling in React Native. And then we have other components such as the status bar, which allows us to access the status bar, which is just the top bar on your mobile phone that shows the date and other application icons. Now to begin, I'm not going to be running my application in Android Studio because my computer is not beefy enough to run Android Studio and to run my React Native as well as record at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my mobile phone, and I'm going to be running the application on my mobile phone, my actual physical device. And the way I'm going to do that is I can start my server. If you check the package JSON file, I'm going to be using this start script, so expo start or npm start. And then what that is going to do is it's going to generate a QR code that I can scan using my phone, and that is going to open up the application on my phone. And if you're on Android, I think on iOS as well, you'll need to go ahead into your app store, and you will need to install an application that is called Expo Go. So it's called Expo Go, and you can just install it, just follow the steps to sign up for an account, and then that is how we're going to be running it. And just to show you, I'm going to go ahead and say npm start, and when I say npm start, then you can see that it starts my Metro bundler and so on and so forth, and then it is going to generate a QR code right there. So you can use this QR code, you can scan it, and it says right here, so scan the QR code using Expo Go or the camera app on iOS, and then that is going to open up the application on your physical device. Now I'm going to do just that. So I have Expo Go installed, so let me just do that. So this right here is Expo Go, and you'll notice that I can go ahead and say scan QR code, and when I scan it, look at this, it's going to scan. And then obviously this is the previous application that I was showing for the demo, but once it reloads, I think it's going to reload in a few minutes. If it doesn't, you can just press R on your keyboard and it's going to reload the application. And then once it reloads, then it's going to show the default application. Of course, it usually takes a while for the first time, but on subsequent loads, it is much faster. So once it loads in, then we should be able to see some text on the screen that says open up app.js to start working on your app. So let this load in. And there we go. There is our application. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to shrink this down a bit so that I am able to place my phone right here. I mean, not obviously my phone, but like so that you can see it. I'm screen recording my phone, so I'm going to place the recording here. so that you're able to follow along easily. Now, app.js is the only file that we're going to be needing for this project because it's a simple project and we're only building out the UI. So the first thing that we need to do is we just need to remove this part, or you know what, this part can remain actually because it's actually useful. And then what we're going to do is we don't want this text anymore. So I can remove the text here, and when I save it, then when you check your application, you will notice that nothing shows on the screen. Now what we need to do is I want to create a header on the top. So let me just write them down. So I need to create a header on the top, which is going to show the name of the place that you're currently viewing. And then we can add a settings icon. So this is the name and settings icon. And then we need to display the current temperature. And then we need to display some text showing whether it's sunny or cloudy or whatever. And this is all coming from the API, by the way. So this is all coming from the API, so you don't need to worry too much about it. And then below this, we are going to display, what was it? We're going to display what the temperature actually feels like. And then we're going to display the wind, the current wind of that particular place. And then we need to go ahead and add some 2 images. So one image, and this is something that I didn't show, I'm sorry about that, but we're going to have 2 images for the background. So the first image is going to be for whether the current place that you're viewing is in daytime, and the next image is whether the place is during nighttime. So you're going to get 2 images, and that is actually the reason why I have this opened up. So this is pixels, and we're going to be getting our image from pixels. You can see that I was searching for night, so we're going to use one of these images, and they're going to be looking quite nice. So therefore, let's go ahead and let's begin building this out. So the first thing, let me do this actually. Let me just go ahead and remove this, and then let me render some text here. And by the way, anytime that you're rendering text in React Native, you can't just do it like we do on the web. You can, on the web, you can render text inside the div, inside the section, inside articles or whatever. But in React Native, you have to have the text component. And to show you, if I try to render some text inside a view, for example, and remember a view is just similar to a div, if I try to render some text, then we're going to get an error on the screen, and it tells you that text strings must be rendered within a text component. So I'm going to change this up to text, and then when I save it, then we no longer have any error on the screen, and you can see that it's just rendering that particular text. Now I don't want to render the text as the main component. I want to render what is called a safe area view. So safe area view, what it does is what it does is it is going to calculate the status bar, which is the black bar that you see on the top right now. So it's going to calculate that part, and then it's going to push down your component so that it doesn't like go behind the camera, for example. Of course, there are ways to override this, but it works right now, and for this particular application, it's going to work correctly. Now we just need to import this. This is coming from React Native, so import safe area view as a named import from React Native, and then style sheet here is what we're going to be using to create our styles, and then the text and the view, obviously we have talked about those. Now once we do that, I'm going to go ahead and I want to render the background image. So the background image, the way we do it on the web is we would create something like a div, for example, or a section, and then we would add the image in CSS. Well, React Native provides a component for us to do that, and it is called image background. Now, image background, make sure once again that you import it from React Native. And what I've just done right there is I've used Control Spacebar, which is a shortcut. And when you just click on enter, it imports it on the top. So image background is going to take in a prop here because this is a component. So it takes in a prop called source. And the source here, because we are getting the image from the web, we need to have our 2 brackets, and then we need to specify a URI and then the link to the image. So let's go ahead and get that link right here. Let me use this one. I did not use this image, but I think this looks better, so I'm going to use this one instead. So copy image address, and then when we go back to our application, if I paste this in, now let me save it and watch what happens. Nothing, right? The reason why nothing happens is because we need to specify some styles for this image background. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and say the style for this is going to be coming from styles.backgroundImage. Now this once again is dot notation because we are specifying an object, because this is now in JavaScript, so this is an object. So we are saying that the style of the image background is going to be coming from styles, which is our style sheet here. So const styles is equal to style sheet dot create, and then we want to create some styles, or rather an object called background image. So let me go ahead and create that. So background image. So inside here, in order to show the image, we need to go ahead and specify a width as well as a height. Now look at this. I want the width to be 100% of whatever device that we're going to be using to view this application. So I can go ahead and say set the width to 100%. Now 100% because it has a percentage, so it needs to be inside some strings. And when I save it, nothing happens. But if I specify the height to be, let me say, about 500 pixels or something, now the image is going to show up. But not every phone screen is 500 pixels. And you can see that my phone is much bigger than 500. And so I don't want to do this right here. So I'm going to remove it. And then what I'm going to do is the image background, inside the image background component, that's where I want to render my text. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to render a view, and the view is going to have a style of styles.header, which we're going to create. And then inside here, we're going to have some text with a style of styles dot, let me say, heading. And then this is just going to say, let me just say Nairobi for now. Now, obviously this is coming from the API, but I can just hard code it for now just so that you can see that what we're going to have on the screen. And then we're going to have an icon here. And this icon, because we are using Expo in this application, it comes pre-installed with what is called Expo Vector Icons. So Expo Vector Icons, I always forget the link to the website, so I just Google it every time. Now inside Expo Vector Icon, I can search for settings, and I'm going to use this icon from Feather. So this is the way you use it. You import it. So just copy the import it on top, and then copy how you render it, and you can just render it right here because it is an icon and it's not going anywhere. So the name of the icon is settings, the size of the icon is 24, and the color is going to be black. I can change this to hashtag 333 and then save it. And then what you are going to see on the screen once it reloads sometime today is that. There we go. So we have some text that shows Nairobi, and then the icon that we want to show on the screen. So let's go ahead and style this out. So right below this, I'm going to say that for the header, I'm going to say that the flex direction is going to be row. And by the way, because in React Native everything is already a flex box, so you don't need to go ahead and say display flex here. So you don't need to do that. Now flex direction is going to be row, and then I'm going to say align items, and I'm going to set this to the center just to center it properly, and then justify content, and I'm going to say space between, and we're going to have that. Now I just noticed something. I don't need these styles, or at least I don't think so. So I can just remove them, and hopefully nothing breaks. Yeah, nothing breaks. There we go. Now what we're going to do next is this. Once we have the header here, I want to style this heading. So right below this, I'm going to say that for the heading text, heading, I'm going to say change the color to white, hashtag FFF, and then I'm going to say change the font size to about 24 pixels, and then change the font weight to about 800, which is a bit bold. So save that, and we're going to have that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is for this icon, I did not style this icon. I can just style this icon inside here, and I'm going to say style is equal to, and I'm going to change the color into white. And the styling for this is just similar to React in the web. So if you know how to use the style, what's it called, the style attribute in React.js, it's just similar, the very same thing here. Okay, so once we have that, let's go ahead and create another view. And this other view is going to be for the temperature. So the style here is going to say styles.temp, so temperature. And then below this, I'm going to say we want to render some text here that for now is just going to say it's about 16 degrees here. So I'm just going to render 16 on the screen, and then give it some style here. So styles dot what? This is the reason why I like using Tailwind. I don't like thinking of class names. let me just say temp shown, temp shown. There we go. So we have 16, and then below this we're going to have some other text that just says sunny, and this is going to have a style of styles dot text, and we're going to be using this style of text for a bunch of other things. So below this, let's create another view, and for this one I'm just going to say style is equal to, can figure out a class name. So let me just render the text first of all. So let me copy this, paste it here, and then paste it once again. This is going to be styles.text. Okay, this one is going to say feels like, and I'm just going to say 25 for now, and then this is going to show an icon first of all, so a wind icon, and then it's going to say wind at maybe like 12 kilometers per hour. So let's go ahead and get this icon. So once again into export vector icons, and then I'm going to search for wind, and then I can just use this icon from feather. So we know that this icon is already from feather on top, so we don't need to get the import on once again. So I can just say import this one, and then I'm going to render it right here. There we go. So we are getting the feather component. The name of the icon is wind, the size is 24, the color is going to be hashtag 333. Now this one is going to say styles dot what? Styles dot, let me think of a name, more. Let me just do that. Obviously you can think of better class names. Now when I save it, you can see that it shows up on the screen quite nicely. So let's go ahead into this view, and let's go ahead and style the temp shown. So let me go below this. Let's say that for the temp shown, then I want the font size to be 100, which is quite big, and you know, let me say 150 to make it even bigger. Maybe too big, but you know, let's change the font weight. If I can type it, let's change it to 800. Let's change the text color to white. There we go. And then for the temp class, for the temp, which I know is the parent, what we're going to do is I'm going to say align items center, which should now bring everything to the center, including the text. I hope so. Now let me style the class of text, and for the class of text I'm going to change the color into hashtag white. There we go, there we go, looking quite nice. And then, oh, you know what, I got the color icon wrong. The color of the icon, this should be white, not black, because it is barely visible. There we go. Now I want to go inside this class of more and then display these two as a flexbox so that I can move them to the center. So right below this, I'm going to say that for the class of more, I'm going to say align items, and I'm going to push them to the center. And then I need to change the flex direction. So flex direction changes into row. There we go. Align them center, and then let's also say justify content to the center. That is much better. And then let's add a grid gap here of about maybe 32. Separate out just a bit, and then let's add a margin on the top, margin top of 32 as well. And that is looking much better. Now what we need to do is this. I don't want all this to be like on the edge. You can see that it's on the edge, right? I don't like it. So what we're going to do is inside, I need to go inside which class? I need to go inside the background image, and inside the background image right here, I'm going to add some padding. And the way you can add padding is just similar to the web. So you can add padding top, padding bottom, padding left, padding right. But React Native, if you're going to be adding padding on the top and bottom only, you can use padding vertical. And if you're going to be adding padding on the left and on the right, you can use padding horizontal. So padding horizontal, you can use that as well if you want. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say that padding vertical, sorry, not padding vertical, but padding top is going to be something like 32. Actually, no, that's really bad. Let's say 16. And then padding bottom is going to be 32. And then padding horizontal, so on the left and right, is going to be 16. There we go. And I'm actually doing that wrong. I'm doing this wrongly. And do you know why I'm doing it wrongly? I'm doing it wrongly because this should not be added here. What I need to do is I need to cut all of this out. So cut this view and this view and this view and place them inside another parent view. So place them inside another parent view. And then I can style out this view to have this style. So let me cut this out, cut them out. And then I can go inside this view and I can add in some style here and do that instead. There we go. There we go. Now. I want this part to be on the top and then these two, to be on the bottom. Now, because this, the parent here is only one and these are 3 items. So if I try to go ahead and change this to a flexbox, if I say justify content to space between and then change the flex to 1, then that happens. I don't want that to happen. And actually, where does that happen? React Native. So what do we need to do? Background image. Save area view. I need the background image to take up the entire screen first of all. If I can just get that to work, then it's going to be amazing. We're not using this class anywhere. We're not using this class anywhere. So, okay, let me just figure this out. Save area view. I just deleted the style of container, so sorry. So style.container, you can just create it again. So container, and then I can say flex 1, and then I can change the background color to red just to make sure that it is working. Okay, so I don't want the color of red, obviously, so I want it to go back to white. I mean, the default color is not even white, it is like a very slight gray, but it's very hard to detect. So background color white on the container. And then I need the image background, because the image background is this entire thing that holds all our text. It's the one that is holding all our text. And I want it to span from here all the way to the bottom. So the way I can do that is if I go here and say flex of 1, it should work. There we go. Flex of 1, there we go. And then now what I need to do is I need this part, so the part that shows the temperature as well as this part that shows the other text, I need this to be inside another div or another view. I'm used to saying div, so that when I go and display this as a flexbox and say space between, then it's going to place the header on the top and then this text is going to come somewhere here on the bottom. That is what I want to happen. So let me go ahead and see if I can do that. So cut this out and this one that ends here. So cut these two out, place them inside a view. And then if I save that, and this view is the parent, this is the child, and then the child. So just try content space between. That doesn't work. Align items center. Okay, that breaks it. That breaks it. So just by content space between. Why doesn't it work? Flex 1. Okay, there we go. It just needed flex 1. See, everything in React Native, getting used to this kind of styling sometimes, I mean, it was a bit of a learning curve for me. So let's move this upwards. So all you need to do is just play around with these styles and then you're going to get used to it with time. Now, the padding on the bottom is a bit too small, so let me increase this to 52. Or even 100. I mean, yeah, that is looking quite nice. Now all you need to do is, because everything is hard-coded right now, so we actually need to begin to send our GET request so that we can actually learn how to toggle this as well. So we have done this and this and this as well as this one. Okay, I just remove everything. Now let's go ahead into Rapid API, and you can see that I don't want Node.js because we're not working in Node. I mean, we are technically, but I want the JavaScript fetch. So JavaScript fetch, and then I'm going to copy this code. Now you need to get an account with a Rapid API in order to get access to this, and you can go ahead and test out things. But you can see that currently we are searching for the query here. The query string is a latitude and longitude, but you can change this into a name. Okay, Paris, not Paris, Paris. And when you go ahead and test that endpoint, then you're going to get a bunch of data about Paris, as you can see. So let me copy the code here, and then what I'm going to do is, just like in the normal React, what we're going to do is the following. I'm going to say import use state and use effect from React, and then we're going to say this. I'm going to set up my state value, so I'm going to say const city and set city, because we can only show one city at a time, and this is going to be equal to use state, and by default it's going to just be empty like that. Now the reason I've chosen to set it to be empty is because the results that we're going to be getting back is an object, so you can just leave it to be empty, or you can set it to null if you want. You can set it to null and it's still going to work. Now let me go ahead and set up my use effect, and for the use effect I'm going to set up my callback function and then an empty dependency array, so that it only runs once on the initial render. And then I'm going to create my function here. So I'm going to say function, let me say get weather, and then inside here I'm just going to go ahead and paste in my whatever I copied. And then we have the await keyword here, so all we need to do is just change this into an asynchronous function. So say async function get weather, and then of course let's remember to call the function right here, so get weather. There we go. Now the console log here is not going to show up in the browser, but if I save it, it's going to show up in our terminal right here. So you can see that we are console logging the location object, which contains other objects such as the name, the region, and so on and so forth, and da. So we are doing that correctly. Now what we need to do is, first of all, we need to change this into JSON, because we are going to be getting back JSON, or rather we want to get back JSON. And then what we're going to do is, now look at this, we need to change this into what was it? Let me check the API. We need to say city, because city is what we need to populate. And actually I forgot it here. We need to say set city into result, so that we can actually populate our state value. Okay, so that once we do that, we can go ahead and say city dot, and then if you check the API, we go into the location object and then get the name. So you can say city.location.name, and then when I save that, then it should now appear on the top, but it's going to break. I just noticed, and it breaks. The reason why it breaks is because this part of rendering, the one that renders to the screen, it evaluates before our get request can run. So what we need to do is we need to add an error boundary. And the way we do that is we are going to grab everything inside here. So everything inside the safe area view all the way to the bottom, we're going to cut it out. And then I'm going to say that only when city is true, meaning when it is not null or when it is not empty, that is when we want to render everything else. And you will notice why I chose to add this in the image background. It is because we want to also go ahead and create some kind of check for this one. So let's save it, and then now we should have everything, and you can see that we are rendering Paris. Now, if I change this into something like Bangkok and save it, then you'll notice that the name also updates. So it's very fast, right? Now we need to go ahead and change, this is city location, we need to go ahead and get the temperature. So the temperature is inside, let me make this full screen, let's shrink this down. So the temperature is here. So it is inside location, it is inside the current object, and then it is called temperature underscore C. So in degrees Celsius, because we are normal people, we don't use Fahrenheit, right? I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and say this. Let's say city.current.temperature underscore C, and we should get the temperature. There we go. So 32 degrees. And then for the text here, the text here is coming from, where is it? It is inside the current object and then inside another object called condition. And if you expand this, then it shows the text here. So partly cloudy. So we need to go ahead and say city.current.condition.text. So basically just going down inside every single object. When I save that, it updates the text. And then we need to go ahead and get this feels like. And for the feels like, we're just going to render the actual data from the API. And it is right here. So feels like. So we need to go inside the current object and then inside feels like underscore C. So we need to say city.current.feels like underscore C. And then for the wind, what is it? The wind is, where is it? Here, right here in kilometers per hour. So wind underscore kph. So we're going to say this, we're going to remove this, and we're going to say city.current.wind underscore kph and then kilometers per hour. So save it, and we should be able to get everything. We are showing everything correctly. Now the only thing that is remaining is we need to create our background toggle, so to speak. Now for that, we're going to be using something from the API called isDay. So there's a property here inside current, I think, yes, inside current, that is called isDay. So when isDay is 0, then it means it is nighttime, and when isDay is 1, then it means it is daytime. So we're going to be checking for this, and what we're going to do is right inside VS Code where we are rendering our background image, I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to cut it out, and then I'm going to say this, that when the city.current.is_day, and this should say isDay. So when isDay is true, then, oh sorry, this should be a question mark because we want to use the ternary operator. So when isDay is true, then we need to go ahead and render an image that shows whether it is daytime. And then when isDay is false, then we need to go ahead and render our night image. So inside here, really. So there we go. So we need to go ahead and render our night image. So let's get our daytime image right here. So inside pixels, let's search for daytime, and we should be able to get, oh, I used this one. So you can use this one if you want, but I feel like looking for another one. I feel like looking for another image. Let me search for beach. Searching, and we can use even this one. So let's just say copy image address, and then let's go ahead and render it here, and then let's save it to see whether it is working. And there we go. So we can see that it is now daytime in Bangkok. So let's go ahead and search for a place that is nighttime. So let me say something like Thailand. Save it. Nothing happens. This is not even changing, so I'm wondering whether this is working. Let's say Fiji. Okay, there we go. So you can say that, oh, by the way, I searched for a country name, but it brings the capital city or a prominent city, I think. I don't know whether the capital city of Fiji is this, but, you know, if you search for a country, then it's going to bring a prominent city in that country, and that is what it's going to show. So you can see that it is currently daytime, and let's go ahead and prove it from our API. So if I go ahead and in our API search for a how, then we should see, or test endpoint, we should see that, wait a minute. This is the opposite. So I think I did something wrong here. So this is showing the opposite images. So if I negate this, then it should be the opposite, right? Let me search for Nairobi because it is daytime here, so I should be getting the daytime image. Okay. That is not working. Let's remove the negation. Okay. And then let me just Google this. What time is it in Canada? Let's see, 1:49. Okay, so Canada, if we search for Canada, let's search for Ontario, then we should get the nighttime image. There we go. Okay, so it is working correctly. As you can see. That is pretty nice. Now you can change this to be dynamic in that you can go ahead and add a way for users to search for a place or search for their location, and then it displays the current weather. And by the way, this updates, I don't know how long, after how long it updates, but it does update. So if you leave your application open and you set the data for your current city, then it's going to show you like real actual data. When we were beginning to record, I think it was 16 degrees, as you can see, and now it is showing 18 degrees. So that is quite nice. Now I want to deploy this to GitHub, so I want to remove my API key here. So you're going to go ahead and substitute your API key here, which you get from Rapid API. So if you go into code snippets, this is your API key right here. You can go ahead and just substitute it and it should work correctly for you. So let me go ahead and open up GitHub. So let me open up GitHub. And then we are going to cover how to build out and deploy your mobile application in another video. But for now, this will suffice because it is just the beginning of, building stuff. So let me say weather app. Let me say rn, so React Native dash weather app. Wait, do I have a repository? I do have a repository called weather app. I did not know that. So let me say React dash native weather app, and then create repository, and then let's use that. So copy, and then we can go ahead and shut this down. So shut it down. Don't worry about this. And by the way, I just remember this. Whenever you want to reload your application, all you need to do is just say Ctrl+J to open up your terminal, and then hit the R key, which is going to reload it. And if you don't want to do that, then if you're using Expo Go, what you can do is just take your mobile phone and then just shake it. And when you shake it, it's going to pop up some options. Now look at this. I'm shaking it. When I shake it, it pops that up. And then you can say disable fast refresh, or you can reload, or you can open the debugger, and so on and so forth. Now, when I reloaded this, I noticed something. Look at this. Our thingy, our text for the current place as well as the icon is behind the status bar. I just noticed that. So let's fix that. Let's go ahead and notice that we were importing status bar here. What you can do is you can just go ahead and render and say that for the status bar, we can set the the style is equal to the auto, or you can set it to light or dark. Now, if I set it to light, you can see that we're getting the text in a lighter font. And if I set it to dark, then we're going to get the darker font. And if I set it to auto, it's going to be dependent on your system preferences. Now, I want to set this to light, and then I need to increase the padding on the top here to about 32 or 52, just to be on the safe side, so that this moves downwards enough, I mean, so that it doesn't like go behind your status bar. So that is looking much better. So now let me open up my terminal, Ctrl+J, and then let me shut it down because we are done with this. And then I can also shut down the application because we are now finished in that. And then I can place this to be full screen finally. And then I'm going to say this. I'm going to say git add app.js, and then git commit, and I'm going to say fetch and display weather data, and then git remote add origin, and then paste in my link, and then git push dash u. Oh, sorry, I need to say git branch first of all. So git branch dash m main to change it to the main branch, and then git push dash u origin main, which is going to push it to my remote repository. And then I can say, okay, I can go ahead and check this out, and we should be able to see that. There we go. So there is our application. We began it 43 minutes ago, and we have just committed this right now. Now I want to go ahead and add a readme, but that is going to be outside of the video. So that is going to be the end. So thank you for watching, and do subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.